Hello everyone and welcome back to Transformation Tuesday. I was about to say Project Limitless. That's the transformational program I'm running online for some amazing human beings that are up leveling their reality. But tonight we are Transformation Tuesday and I'm coming to you live from Bali. I'm here in Canggu. I'm coming to you from a little bit of a different location. I'm coming to you from Canggu. I'm here at the co-working center here called the Dojo, and I'm here tonight to help you guys tap into a deeper level of emotional mastery. Tonight I'm going to focus on the keys to emotional mastering, specifically what you need to know about that maybe your parents didn't teach you, right? What you need to know about your thinking that perhaps we never got taught, we never got trained, we never got explained how the fundamental aspects of the human being operate. So I'm here to unpack to a deeper level the understanding of the self, to point out what I thought was a really obvious thing to a lot of people, but it turns out it's not so obvious. So I'm going to unpack how we do our consciousness on a slightly different and deeper level tonight. G'day Dave, good to see you here. So when we think about emotional mastery, this isn't just about feeling good. This is not about just feeling good, although it helps. This is going to be a skill set that's going to help you feel better. This conversation is going to help you understand how we actually experience reality, how we do this experience, this human experience, how we feel what we feel. And sometimes in life it can be a bit confusing why we feel certain things. Sometimes we might feel anxious or sad or unmotivated. And it's not actually a random thing that happens to you. It's actually a strategy. It's a series of thinking patterns, belief systems. There is method behind the madness of what's going on inside our consciousness. G'day Daniel, good to see you here. So I'm going to go with you tonight I'm going to go through three major keys to emotional mastery tonight, which takes things a level deeper. And what I'm going to start covering is the nature of thought, the nature of consciousness, and the nature of how we project our thinking into our reality such that it creates this illusory experience that we describe as human life. Our human feelings get generated from our thinking. And sometimes it can be a bit of a mystery. Sometimes we don't know how the feelings got there. We don't know sometimes even what they are. But this conversation is going to open it up to a far deeper level. So let's first of all drop into number one, which is there's some key truths that we need to explain and share so that we understand what we're doing here. Our thinking creates our reality. It's our thinking that is the starting point, that is the start of the sequence that creates our reality. It's what we place our attention on that then gives rise to the space in our mind that gets occupied by a thought. So thought is just information. Thought is simply data. Thought is packets of information. And we can think of our mind like an antenna. We are tuning into different frequencies to tap into different thoughts, which are just forms of energy. So our thinking fundamentally is neutral. We need to understand that the thoughts that are passing through our mind are like thoughts that are flowing through a river. The thoughts are the particles flowing through a river, and the river happens to be flowing through our consciousness, flowing through our mind. Our thoughts sometimes get presented to us as being true, as being factually accurate, when a lot of the time thoughts are just thoughts. You can have some random thoughts, some thoughts that might seem a little bit crazy, some thoughts that are pretty wild and wacky ideas. And if you pay enough attention to your thinking, well, you're going to create the illusion that your thinking is real, rather than just information passing through your consciousness. So that's the first thing we need to realize. That's the first thing we need to know about our thinking, is that our thinking is not actually reality. Our thinking is just thought. It's just what we're placing our attention on in terms of energy, focus, and information. It's simply attention to information. Now, that information might be accurate, it might not be accurate, it might be an illusion. Some examples are there when you have thoughts of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. Well, that's just a thought. It doesn't mean, just because you think it, doesn't mean it's yours, doesn't mean it's accurate, doesn't mean it's right, and doesn't mean it needs to be given any extra airplay. So that's the first truth that we need to realize about thinking, is that it's just data, it's just information. Now, the value that you place upon that thought as being true, and the way that you process that, the way that you allocate meaning to that thought, that is now going to determine a whole lot of other processes that your mind is now going to indulge in, including what does it mean, you're going to react to it, you're going to judge the thought, probably be in resistance to the thought. So you've got to start to understand that it's the thinking that is the very, very first aspect of everything that comes, everything that comes after thinking is simply a consequence. Thinking is the very, very first initiative. It's the very first element in the sequence of how we do reality, i.e. how we create our results. Now, you probably might think, okay, so what? Thinking creates our reality. Okay, I kind of get it. Well, by understanding that our thoughts are the data, they're like the DNA that's now going to get projected through our reality, it reminds us to place a larger degree of importance upon our thinking. Because your thinking is either going to expand you and elevate you and help you evolve and help you grow, or your thinking is going to devolve you. It's going to detract from your experience, and it's going to cause resistance and suffering. Now, all of that happens through whether you're holding a great empowering thought in your mind or whether you're holding a disempowering thought in your mind. So you've got to be aware of the contents of your mind. You need to be aware of the contents of your mind. In the same way as if you had a computer, and if you knew that the computer contained viruses, if you knew the computer contained old files that were taking up space that weren't helpful or useful, well, you're going to have a computer that's full of clutter. You're going to have a computer that's not functioning. So the same thing goes for the human being. We need to realize and recognize that if we want to be at the highest performance, at the highest level of performance as a functional human being, well, we have to take responsibility for decluttering the mind. We've got to take responsibility for any of the thinking patterns that are not serving us. So the thinking patterns that I'm talking about are going to be things like anything from I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't believe in wealth creation, I don't believe I'm smart enough, and I don't believe I'm disciplined enough. So thoughts and beliefs, they go hand in hand. Thoughts and beliefs they go hand in hand. They are both related. Your beliefs are going to assist you to tune into different thought frequencies. So the beliefs that you have are going to influence the thinking patterns that come through your mind. And the way to realize the importance of thinking is understanding this metaphor for the nature of consciousness, which is this. Our thoughts enter our mind, and our thoughts are simply like a slide being placed in a slide projector. It's just data. It's just information that's being placed inside our mind. Now, that thought is like the slide that gets put inside the projector. Now, the light from the projector projects the light out onto a screen. The light projecting onto that screen is the equivalent of our feelings, our emotional state. So we're now putting the slide in the projector, which is just data. It's now getting projected onto the screen, which is now creating a movie. That movie feels so lifelike and so real that we actually forget the process that's taking place here. The process that is happening is you've chosen to hold a thought in your mind, which is now getting projected. It's now getting projected inside your awareness, inside your body, and it's now manifesting itself as a sensation in your body, which you label as an emotion, you label as a feeling. So this is the process through which our human consciousness is generated. It's holding a thought, generating a feeling, and then as a result of that feeling, we are now either empowered, inspired, motivated, enlivened to take action in the direction of our dreams, to make decisions in alignment with our higher self, to create the reality we want, or not. So the quality of the thinking determines the quality of your emotion. The quality of that emotion will determine the quality of choices and decisions that you have available from the infinite drop-down menu of life about what you want to do in this reality. So if you're holding a negative thinking pattern, it will create a negative feeling pattern, and that will create a negative series of choice points to act upon. For example, if you have the thought, I'm no good, and you buy into that thought, you're going to have the feeling of perhaps maybe I feel unworthy or I feel sad. And then as a result of that, when you go to turn up to a business meeting, or when you go on a date with a girl or a date with a guy, you are potentially going to be projecting unconscious choices, and a lot of this is unconscious. You're going to be projecting choices and decisions and limiting your choices and decisions based on your mood, based on your feeling. And this is entirely an unconscious process for most people. As long as this is playing out as an unconscious process, you don't have any power over yourself or creating your reality, because what's happening is there's habits, there's conditioning, there's programming, there's a whole lot of stuff that's happening on autopilot inside your mind. And if you don't have awareness of it, if you don't have an understanding of it, then those unconscious, automatic, autopilot programs will be playing out. They will be sabotaging you. They will be costing you dearly, but you won't have any awareness of it. That's just the nature of consciousness. That's just the nature of being a human. So what we're doing here is we're now recovering that your results are being directly influenced by your choices. Your choices are being directly governed and impacted by your emotional feeling state. Your feeling state is being governed by your thinking. But then we've got to ask the question, well, where is the thinking coming from? Where is our thinking coming from? Now, this is a powerful question to ask. Where do my thoughts come from? Where are they coming from? Now, you're simply tuning into information from the quantum field. Your thinking is tuning into information. And you can either tune into information that's powerful, that's insightful, that's creative, that's innovative, or you can tune into thinking that's low potential, diminishing, low possibility. And that is a choice once you become aware of your thinking. But if you're not aware of your thinking, then you're kind of stuck in a pattern. You're stuck in a pattern of just subscribing to thinking that that's all there is. Realize that your thoughts are like you putting a slide in a projector. You are putting that thought in there, or you are responsible for deciding whether or not you want to hold that thought in there. When you become conscious to yourself, you gain the power back to be empowered to decide, is that a thought you want to hold? Is that a pattern that you want to sustain? Is that energy, is that frequency something that you want to contain and hold inside your mind? Yes or no? So this skill of present state awareness, which is your ability to be aware of what your thinking and feeling is in the moment, that's one of the master skills of life. This is one of the things that we need to know about as an adult, as a professional human being, and as a child. This skill of present state awareness is the skill set we need to be aware of what am I thinking and feeling? It's quite straightforward. However, it's an art. It's a bit of a science, and it's a lifelong journey to master what's taking place inside our consciousness, what's taking place inside the mind. And the most important thing you're ever going to realize in life is that it's not what you know that's important to you. It's what you don't know that's the most important to you. It's the invisible things in front of you that are restricting you and limiting you that are the most important things you can ever need to know about. There are a series of invisible handbrakes on in your car as you're driving along. And it's those invisible layers of limitation and filters that are preventing you from seeing the limitations. They are invisible. They are invisible in front of you. And if they're invisible, well, you can't see them, and they will be limiting you with no awareness of them. So one of the things we need to realize is there are limitations inside our mind, but if we don't have awareness of them, well, we can't really do a lot about them. You can only move beyond the limitations that you're aware of, because if you're not aware of them, then you're oblivious to them. If you're not aware of your limitations, you're oblivious to them, which means they're like a blind spot. They're an invisible handbrake. They're going to limit you and impact you. So we need to start to become aware of some of the filters. So this is the second aspect, which is the invisible filters that are governing how you see your reality. Do you believe in abundance? Do you believe in having an incredibly long-lasting, amazing or fulfilling love life? Do you believe in really living a really healthy life? Do you believe in having happy friendships? Do you believe in being healthy, fit, active? Do you believe that these things are possible for you? Now, for a lot of people, they just have either given up on them or they have a limited perception of what is actually possible. Now, it's not that it's not actually possible, it's just that they have a filter in their mind that just says, well, based on everything that I've experienced in my past, I don't think it's likely that I can get there. So what we're now doing is there's a filter there that's filtering our experience, and it's deleting, distorting, and generalizing our reality based upon what I've seen in the past. We're saying, based on what I've seen in the past, I'm going to prophesize or predict what I believe is possible in the future. Now, it's not a very clever game to be playing, because what you're doing there in that scenario is, if you're using that filter of the past equals the future, is you're going to be limited by the things that you've experienced. You're going to be limited by the experiences that you've collated and collected in your mind. And you're going to be open to new, innovative, creative ideas. So we need to be aware of, if we have that filter set up in our mind, which is limiting our sense of possibility. I call it the infinite possibility filter. And we need to realize that, yes, this is a filter. Yes, it's limiting us. And until we become aware of it, like through a conversation like this, it is going to impact our life. Now, that's just a fact. That's just the nature of all the filters that exist inside the mind. I'm just giving you a couple of examples here. But if we're not aware of them, well, we are going to be limited. We're going to be severely limited. So that's the pillar number 2 of things that we need to know about, is there's a whole series of invisible filters. Now, these fit under a whole lot of other domains, such as things like fears, limiting beliefs, a whole lot of negative emotions and elements that we're in resistance to, and judgments and criticisms. So we get to realize that these filters that are actually invisible, once we become aware of them, we can shine a light upon them, which means that we can now see that they're there. We can now unpack them, pull the layers of resistance or the layers of distortion away from our reality. And now what we are left with is a more truthful, clearer version of reality. But we can only do that once we understand the filters. So those invisible filters are like lenses. They are like glasses that are tinting our view. And I've given you some examples of the ones that I believe are quite important, but limiting beliefs really become a filter that taint, limit, and block possibility from our life. So if you have any limiting beliefs in your life, if you have limitations around what you believe is possible, well, that's going to be playing out in how you see your reality. You're not going to see opportunities. You're not going to see the truth that exists there, because it's going to get distorted. Your mind, your eyesight, your perception is going to get diluted. It's going to get completely distorted, because you can only see what you believe to be possible. We can only see and perceive what we believe to be possible. If we see something that sits outside of our paradigm of what we believe is true, we dismiss it as being a hoax or an illusion or hallucinating. So this is a powerful realization to have, is your reality will not allow you to see anything that sits outside of your belief system, because you just delete it, because you just dismiss it as not being accurate, not being valid, just something else, something other than what it actually is. The third element that we need to be aware of, that you wish that you knew, is that any time that you get stuck, any time that you are not taking action, any time that you are limited in your expression, the reason why you're not expressing yourself in that moment is because you simply don't understand enough about yourself or the situation in the moment to take action. It's a lack of understanding. So if you don't know what action to take, it's because you don't understand yourself, or you don't understand the situation. As simple as that. If you understand the situation, then you'll know what to do. You'll know what action to take. So it's really quite simple. If you don't know what to do, it's because you are missing some understanding. So it's really quite simple. If you don't have a level of understanding, and you're not okay with that, then you're going to be in a state of dis-ease. You're going to be in a state of feeling uncomfortable. And try this on. Anything that you've done a lot of times in your life, whether it be your job or making a cup of tea or brushing your teeth, those kinds of things, you don't have any resistance to those because you understand them. Any action that you take freely, with full, authentic expression, the reason why you're taking that action is because you understand yourself to the highest degree, that there is no resistance, there is no limitation on your action. Whereas the things that you are hesitant on, the things that you are not taking action on, it's because you don't understand them. You don't have a heightened level of awareness about how all the pieces come together. And as a result of not understanding, there is a lack of self-trust, and there is a lack of being at ease with the situation that's unfolding. So this becomes really powerful, because you now know, if I'm stuck, I just need to improve my level of understanding of myself such that I get to the point where I can take action. Because if you're not taking action, it just means you don't understand something. What is it that you don't understand? It's something that you don't understand how to navigate your way through. It's something you don't understand how to execute. what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Or maybe it's you know all those things, but you don't know how to move through the fear. Maybe you don't know how to move through being judged by others. So the degree to which you can move through that state of dis-ease or uncomfortable level of resistance, the degree to which you can be present to that and accept that and acknowledge that is to the same degree the ability that you're going to have to navigate your way through your challenges. So whenever you're experiencing feeling stuck, recognize it's a misunderstanding. It's simply a lack of understanding about what I need to do right now. And we need to get to a place where we have a degree of understanding. So that's what's required. Once we have that level of understanding, well, it becomes easy to take action. It becomes easy to take action. So that, I think, is the ultimate benchmark for how effortless and how aligned we are in executing and taking action on life is how well am I dealing with the uncertainty, with the misunderstanding of life? Because there's going to be plenty of things in your life that you don't understand. Plenty of things. If you try and learn a new instrument, if you try and start a completely new business, you are not going to understand how to do it. That's just the truth. You don't have a level of understanding. It's your ability to be at ease with the understanding. It's your ability to have compassion for that and to be present to that and to recognize that it's okay and still take action. That is the master skill of life, because what we're now doing is we're not now tying our ability to take action based on knowledge or information. It now moves into the domain of taking action because it feels authentic and because we know that we'll handle whatever's going to happen, i.e. we'll trust ourselves to deal with whatever happens. And so being at ease with uncertainty and trusting ourselves in the moment of uncertainty, that becomes a powerful skill, because all of a sudden we can override the need to understand, to intellectualize, to analyze, to understand, and we just get in there and we're just playing the game. I mean, look at kids, for example. Kids, they take action pretty easily. A lot of kids are sometimes reckless. And you can look at kids and you can start to take on a few clues, start to create some awarenesses about what's actually going on, around why as an adult do we not take action. And as an adult, sometimes we can go down the avenue of feeling like we need to overanalyze something, feeling like we need to be a master of something before actually bothering getting in the game. So we need to start to realize, well, okay, when we go back to childhood, when we go back to being a kid, well, we were generally throwing ourselves into things even though we didn't know how they were going to go. We actually embraced uncertainty. We embraced the adventure of the new. We saw life as a bit of a blank canvas and we just went for it. And then at some point the conditioning kicks in, the fear kicks in, and we start limiting ourselves. So this is a critical moment of realization when we realize, okay, I can actually take action when I become okay with the uncertainty, when I can sit in the uncertainty and sit in this dis-ease and be present to myself and trust myself, even though I don't quite know how this is going to go. I'm just going to take action anyway, and I'm going to put my best foot forward to elevate myself. I'm going to try and do the best that I can in this moment, knowing that I don't have all the information. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have everything. And that's okay. It's really important to realize that you're never going to have all the information at every single moment in time. However, what you are going to have is you're going to have that self-trust to be able to take an action, take a step, trust yourself, move forward anyway. So that is going to be one of the major keys to creating success, is being able to move forward, even when you're experiencing resistance, even when you're experiencing fear. So that, my friends, that is a really powerful realization to arrive at. When you start to realize that it's okay to not know everything. It's okay at times to have a lack of awareness and understanding about what's going on. That's okay. And you still trust yourself, you still take action, you still have the awareness of self. Guys, I'm going to leave it there for tonight, because those are the three pillars that I believe that if someone had to explain those to me when I first started my journey, I would have been in a greater, I've made such a great impact in life. I would have made, and it doesn't mean my impact isn't as great as I'd like to be, but these are the pillars that make such a difference in our consciousness, in our approach to life, in everything we're expressing and being and doing. And once we gain awareness of those, well, our life goes to a totally different level of mastery and mastering our consciousness. So I'm going to leave those 3 pillars with you tonight. Thank you for joining in. And as always, lots of love. I look forward to chatting to you guys again next week. Happy Transformation Tuesday. And I will see you next week from Ubud. Have a great week, guys. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.